So what's going on here? We've got our alt gauge is pinned, and that's 19, so it's past 19 on the gauge. We come out, check it, see we're at 15.17. So let's go inside and see what's going on here. So a while ago, what we did was we installed an external voltage regulator in behind our coolant jug here, and everything's working good. But we had a stretch of some real cold weather here, -40 for about a week, and what was happening was the gauge would pin, but it started only pinning when it was really cold and for first startup, and the gauge would pin, and then it'd go back down to 14 again. So I grabbed the meter and I'm checking it with the meter, and the gauge is incorrect. So the gauge is pinning to 19 volts, but when you check with the meter here, we were getting 15 plus, under 16. For me personally, not an emergency. I can still operate my vehicle, which I was doing away from home for work, and able to get home and check things out. So what I did was, originally I had this one mounted in to the fender wall there, and you know, it's old. It's a used part. So just out of caution, I went and I bought a new one, and I installed that in there. Well, now instead of making things better, it made it worse. Now the gauge is pinning, and it was staying pinned. And again, I check it with the meter. Meter says that we're at you know, under 16, or over 15 volts and under 16 volts. So I got to wait till the following weekend, get home and check it again. So we're wondering, like, what's causing the problem here, like, and also too, this is a modification we've made to the vehicle, right? So it's a bit of a learning lesson, and we're wondering, like, what's going wrong here. So we want to check our ground wires, right? So when we got our ground wire off the battery and we got it grounded to the frame up top here on the side of the fender. And then if we get underneath, we have it grounded to the bracket of where the coil is bolted to the engine block. So our concern, our problem here is the ground from the alternator to the battery and or the external voltage regulator. Now, I'd already grounded out the external voltage regulator to the alternator. I'd grounded it out right here from the external voltage regulator to the body of the alternator. But check this ground, and this is from the engine block to the battery negative, and it's good, it's tight. And back up top, checked our negative on the battery here, and we make sure it's tight. And I snug these down. They're you can't get them where they're absolutely tight. You start stripping stuff. So we just snug them down a little bit more. And what I did was I ran another ground wire from our terminal here, and it runs down and it goes down to that same ground that I am connecting the external voltage regulator to the alternator there. So I've grounded the body of the alternator to the battery, as well as to the body of the vehicle and the external voltage regulator. And after we've done all that, our best reading from from the charging system now is about 14.7, and we'll show you that. So if we look now, we've got 14.7 staying pretty consistent there. And if we check inside the Jeep, our gauge is showing good now. So in the end, whether or not this helped, the problem with our high number on the charging system, we think, is a compromised ground. Whether it be over there on our voltage regulator, our body, or on our engine block down below. Check all your grounds and see how that changes your number. I've looked, and it says that a good number should be 13.8 to 14.3 to 14.6. We're getting 14.7. So as long as you're under 15, I think you're good. If you're 15, in between 15 and 16, it's not good, but it's not an emergency. I was driving back and forth to work on 2-hour trips with it charging at 15 plus, and for a couple of weeks, and I made it just fine. So not that you'd leave it like that, but you know, if it happens, don't get into a panic. As soon as you can get a look at it and get her fixed, check those grounds.